All right, let's briefly take a look at the organ section. Now, again, the organ works just like the piano, the synth, or your effects. It's a separate module, and you got to make sure it's turned on, make sure your level's turned up, and we could do a series of videos on the B3 organ here, as well as the settings and all that sort of deal. But for right now, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of it so that at least you know how to turn it on and customize a few of the sounds in case you do need to add an organ to the sound. So again, like everything, you're going to turn it on or off by the gray button right here. It encompasses this entire section right here, and from your master volume all the way over to your piano section. And so this first part right here has to do with turning it on and off, and so with it off, you're not really hearing anything except for the percussiveness of the B3. And so I'm going to turn all that off. Now you don't hear anything. And we're going to turn on the rotary cabinet. So again, you've got your on-off switch here to turn it on. Make sure your levels are set. If they're not, you can double tap to get to it. And then here's your master level. So I'm going to give it some sound right quick. Now, as you can hear, that sounds like kind of a home organ. Your octave shift works the same way. And then these are all your drawbars right here. Now, on a traditional, like a Hammond B3 organ, it actually uses drawbars that you pull and slide, and each one of those bars represents basically a fundamental tone. And if you think of it like this, especially when you're looking at the buttons that are right here, you've got a top row of buttons, and so if you press that, it's like pushing in the drawbar. Pressing the bottom is like pulling it out. And so the easiest way to think of this is in terms of like a chord, like a C major chord with C, E, and G, the C being the 1, E is 3, and then G is 5. And if you look at the drawbars right here, you're going to have the farthest one over here, which says sub, it says 16, as you can see, bass 16, that's going to be a 1. And then all of the grays, which is 4, 2, moving on over to one more, and then finally the last one. These are all going to be the 1 of the chord. So if I push these in and play like a C, you can hear it's kind of low. So this would be only playing a C. Here's a C, E, G. Then you've got fifths. So if you take these away or turn them down a little bit so we can hear the others, we add in the next black one. That's going to be the 5th. That's that note right there, but I'm playing a C. As you can hear, it's adding in that G on that one note. Same thing again. Right there. So now we have a bunch of notes off of 1. Kind of here gives it kind of a polychord sound. And then finally, we'll turn all these up. It's a little bit better. And then we'll turn these down again. And this last one right here, which is the 5th, it's going to add the 3rd of the chord, which is the E. So it's actually adding this right there, but it's adding it right here. So if we pull all these out, gives it a nice big theatrical sound. Now, again, that's just your drawbars. You've got other things. You can choose the model B3, a Farf, or a Vox. We're just going to leave it on B3. Don't worry about the other two. You can add vibrato and chorus, and we'll talk about that at a later time. And then you can add different kind of percussion. So no percussion right now on this. Here, we'll turn these down so you can hear it a little bit better. You can hear there's a little bit of an attack to it. So that adds percussion to the sound. We'll talk about that at a later time. But the main thing is going to be these drawbars right here, knowing that you can customize the sound by pulling them in and out. And so all 4 of these last ones is kind of your, like a traditional rock setting. Now, before we get into that, the last thing you need to know is your rotary speaker here. Right now it's not on, so this kind of gives that home organ sound. But we're going to turn on the Leslie cabinet. As you can hear, it's definitely got a different sound. So we'll turn down the drive. Now it's really starting to sound like a B3. Add in a little drive. So you can see that rotary cabinet really adds a lot of character to the organ. That's really, you can't separate the B3 from that rotary cabinet. Again, you can add in drive, you can turn it on and off, and you've got basically a slow and a fast. And inside that rotary cabinet, you've got speakers that are spinning, and you can either have it spin slow or spin fast, and that button right there kicks it on and off. And so that's really the main overview of the organ. If you want to add some drive, you can do that. If you wanted to add reverb, you can, but it adds it to all of it as well. But a lot of times, if I'm looking for something to play that's a little different during a song, like if we're looking for something like a big chorus of a fast tune, and the electric guitars are really carrying a lot of rhythmic aspect, a lot of times I might change over to this B3 and just add some energy with it, playing up high, giving it that nice rock kind of sound, and then changing back over to the piano for maybe a verse or something like that. Or if we're looking for something to kind of fill in with your synth pad, you can pull out these lower drawbars to give it some kind of low end. Maybe take off the rotary cabinet so it kind of has that more home organ pad effect. Blend it in with the synth patch, and that really helps to create a unique pad effect. So again, that's the organ. You probably won't be using it a ton, but if you do, now you know how to turn it on and kind of how to navigate it a little bit. At a later time, we'll do some extra videos that goes in depth into the settings. But for now, that gives you a brief overview.